So, Splatoon merch. It's a very rare breed over here in America and Europe, and you'll be lucky to find it anywhere. It's not in most big stores, and lots of the time, Splatoon 2 isn't even carried in stores. Even in niche stores, you'll rarely see Splatoon merch anywhere. So, if you're like me, you've most likely had the hard to impossible task of trying to get Splatoon merch in an actual store. But why is this? Why is Splatoon merch so hard to find everywhere? When, like most Nintendo franchises, you can find Nintendo merch just anywhere. Well, my uninformed viewer, it all comes down to something called regional demographics, which sounds boring at first, but trust me, it's not, and it's gonna answer our question. When looking at Splatoon sales numbers, we can see that Splatoon 2 has sold over 12 million copies. That number alone would make you think, why is it still so hard to find Splatoon merch, when the game has just performed this well? To answer that, we need to dig a little deeper into where those 12 million copies are. Where the actual Splatoon game sells is the most important thing in trying to track down where the Splatoon merch is being sold, because a higher number of people actually buying the game, the more likely you can sell merch to those people. Now, most of us already know, but in case you didn't, the region that Splatoon is most popular in is Japan. Nintendo, being a Japanese-based company, makes it very much more appealing for a Japanese-based audience, as well as how the game actually plays, being more suited to the Japanese culture. That sounds super weird and stupid, and I promise you it's something really cool in a video I'll talk about later. But now that everyone's aware, Splatoon is more popular in Japan than it is in everywhere else, which leads Splatoon merch being everywhere in Japan. Not only is it everywhere in Japan, they also get much more unique merch. I mean, they've literally got Splatoon tech decks. They have truly gotten the bigger end of the Splatoon merch stick here. So to break down where Splatoon is the most popular, I found a graph from Statista.com which basically revealed how large the ratio of Splatoon being much bigger in Japan than the rest of the world actually is. So yeah, Splatoon is almost double the size in Japan versus what it is over here in America, thus making Japan the dominant market to sell Splatoon merch in. However, the way Nintendo is choosing to handle merch is actually kind of self-destructive. Besides merch being a way to profit off of Splatoon after Nintendo has sold you the game, and the DLC, and Nintendo Switch Online, is the fact that merch helps market products. Someone with no interest in Splatoon before can see Splatoon merch where they go, and maybe pick up a copy of Splatoon just to see what all the hype is about. And the fact that there's little to no Splatoon merch outside of Japan really hurts the game's marketing. But to add some more stupidity here, having Splatoon merch really only available in one region can hurt players' investments to the series. Splatoon players all over the world not located in Japan can be looking for merch to express their love in the game and find absolutely nothing, only to find out that there's tons of Splatoon merch in Japan and that they have little to no access to it, which can leave the non-Japanese player feeling disenfranchised from the series. And to add to even more to how stupid it is, with there being no Splatoon merch outside of Japan, is the fact that it's hurting Nintendo's bottom line. Yeah, it would make sense for Nintendo not to have as much Splatoon merch outside of Japan, as it's obviously not going to sell as well. But to do absolutely just about nothing just loses them out on revenue from Splatoon. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. Invested Splatoon fans may or may not have heard of the untranslated Octo expansion, basically art book slash whole tunnel lore book. This infamously untranslated art book has probably even more Splatoon lore than Octo expansion does, but I wouldn't know because I can't read it because I don't speak Japanese. But Nintendo never bothered to translate it into any other language because they don't feel that it would be a profitable thing to do. So Nintendo's lack of Splatoon merch is actively harming the Splatoon community. So, will things ever get better? Will we ever even get a fraction of the Splatoon merch that the Japanese market does? Well, honestly, it really comes down to how well Splatoon 3 does over here. The more people that buy Splatoon 3 in other regions, the more Nintendo will feel it necessary to produce Splatoon merch for other markets. Which really sucks that Splatoon fans have to depend on non-Splatoon players in order to get merch for Splatoon. If Nintendo started to produce Splatoon merch for other regions, like the only thing it could possibly do is make them more money and promote Splatoon to more audiences. But why doesn't Nintendo do this? Because they see it as a risk factor that's too high. Making Splatoon merch costs money. Physical production, designing, advertisements, all this stuff costs money, and it can cost a lot. And with production costs, Nintendo doesn't really have a reason to value the reward that could come out of bringing Splatoon merch to other regions. And the only people it ever truly ends up screwing over is us Splatoon fans who really want more merch for one of our favorite games. But anyways, I guess that's kind of it for me, gamers. How often do you see Splatoon merch in stores, and do you think Splatoon 3 will spark some interest in Nintendo bringing over Splatoon merch? Let me know in the comments. Alright gamers, I'll see you later.